The beard and the bandana are a little more than an accessory, a symbol of the man whose name is synonymous with family and faith and the great outdoors. He is the CEO of Duck Commander. He is the face of one of the most watched reality TV shows of all time. He's one of the biggest shows here on The Blaze. He is a true embodiment of the American spirit. I can't wait to talk to him because his stories from early age, he not only developed a deep appreciation for the outdoor way of life, but also there's a reason why he's the CEO. And Duck Dynasty and all of it happened thanks to his father also, who hasn't been without serious trials and tribulations of his own. He found redemption, and they share it all the time. But this man's story is more than, duck calls and hunting gear. It's about resilience, entrepreneurship like crazy, and the power of faith to overcome life's challenges. He has captivated audiences all around the world. He is charming. He is friendly. He is fun. I love him. And somehow or another, he and his family have survived reality TV. Beyond the cameras and the fame, he is a devoted husband to his wife and a loving father to their 6 children. He's a best-selling author now, sought-after speaker, philanthropist with a heart as big as Louisiana sky, author of a new book called Godspeller. If you stay until the end, you will learn the secret behind the man that took a simple duck call business and turned it into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. And you're also going to have a lot of laughs. Today, welcome to the program, Willie Robertson. If you're living with pain, I want you to just try something that honestly, when my wife suggested it, I was like, that's not going to work. It's all natural. It's a supplement that you take. I've got real pain, honey. I've got real. Well, what's causing that? Inflammation is a brutal dictator in your body. And that's what causes most of our pain and disease, honestly. And Relief Factor is a daily supplement that helps your body fight that pain. It's not something you take, just when you're in pain. You take it every day. And it was developed by doctors to help reduce or eliminate pain and inflammation. They go hand in hand. The 3-week quick start is $19.95. It's a trial pack, not a drug, but it was developed by doctors. Hundreds of thousands of people have ordered Relief Factor, and about 70% of them go on to order more. So go to relieffactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Get the $19.95 3-week quick start. Relieffactor.com, 800-4RELIEF. Can't wait. Here we go with Willie. Willie, we've been sitting here as they were trying to fix a light.
Yeah.
And
for a while.
And I know. And you started talking about Florence, Italy. You're going to Florence, Italy.
I am.
And I love it. Is just history there, and the art there is amazing. And you're going back. You studied there, right?
I lived there. My wife and I lived there. We did a college program, and I lived there for like 4 months. That's how I'm so cultured. That's how I'm so. No, well, back then, see, we had a little thing called the old bait and switch. So when I married Korie, my hair was really short, no beard, very preppy, and then
preppy.
Oh yeah, I would. Oh yeah. And then over the years, I just slowly, she got the real package. So, I looked at my dad and I looked at me. I was like, "Oh no, that's what you ended up getting that." So
you went to Florence, which is
studied there. Yeah,
one of the great. And you studied.
Well,
art
that's where
there?
we took. Well, yeah, we had to. That's where we got our credit for art appreciation, music appreciation, foreign languages. We had to take them there. I don't know that I would have passed any of those classes had I not been there.
Yeah.
Because you had to. They
you
were
walk in.
You have to go order your own coffee. You have to go, and so I had to learn.
You go in on art. I was like, there's the fake statue in the square of the David.
Right.
And you're like, okay, I've seen it. And I've seen it a million times. And, you know, somebody I know in the family probably has one, you know, sitting on a shelf. And then you walk in and see the real David.
Yeah.
And it is...
Oh, it's...
completely... I don't even know how to describe what the difference is.
It's... Yeah. There's a lot of art there. And sadly, when I was there, I was so sick of art. Because we've been doing it all, like, for college, like, all the way from Amsterdam to Paris. Like, we've been... And I didn't have the... Which is ironic. The class was called Art Appreciation, and I didn't have the art appreciation like I would now.
So what did you get your degree in?
Okay, now you got to stay with this one because it's not going to make a lot of sense, but I'll explain it. I have a non-certified to teach PE degree.
You can teach PE.
No, I can't teach PE.
No, you can't because you're not certified.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I spent like 6 years getting a degree that every time I just tell people the name of it, they start laughing. Here's the deal.
Wait.
I can't legally teach PE. Which is, PE is essentially rolling some balls out in the gym going, all right, kids, get after it. I can't teach that. That's how I spent.
But what was that degree supposed to give you?
Okay, so here's how we explained it. If you wanted to learn about, like, so you weren't going to be a teacher, but let's say you were going to run a health club. So you needed to know some business. So we, instead of the education classes, we took business classes. So it was like a business side of physical education.
Okay.
And I did ask the school I went to, I said, do y'all still have that degree? And he said, no. That one's been gone. He was like,
no, that's a shit.
That was created for you and all the football players who needed to really get through school. So.
You, though, you are a fascinating guy when it comes to business. You were tell the story about you selling candy on the bus
candy
in elementary school.
5th grade, yeah. Big year, 5th grade.
Big year.
Yeah.
I don't even remember my 5th grade.
5th grade. 5th grade changed my life. 5th grade was the reason, 100% why I got the job as CEO of Duck Commander, because of 5th grade. When my dad said, I said, Dad, I think I can turn this company around. I think I can take us to the next level. He goes, yeah, in 5th grade, you did shut that concession stand. He referenced that. He didn't read a resume. He didn't ask about the degree that I had.
Well, that would have convinced him.
No, we had a guy so a guy came down. So where we live is like the end of, Dad still lives there. It's a dead end road. And people would come down there looking for duck calls, and they would, and we just sell them to them right there. So we had this dude come down, he wanted a duck call. They're chit-chatting, and he said he was a candy distributor, and I just happened to be standing out there. So, like,
you're how old?
I'm in 5th grade.
That's what, 8?
10, I have no idea.
Okay.
And I'm just standing there, and so he starts explaining what he did. He said, I'm the distributor of candy, and I didn't understand how distribution worked, and he was like, like when you go in a gas station, you buy this candy. Well, I'm the one that sells it to them, and then they sell it to you. They're the retailer. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. And then he had a box of Hubba Bubba bubble gum. And he just handed it to Phil, and I'm standing right there, right place, right time. And Phil just leans over and said, here you go. And he said, that's for the boys, which I'm like, no, this is for me. So I took that gum, and I just laid there. I just remember I sit on the bed, and I was just like, God, do I just eat, just all of it? Like just back to back to back to back, Because we were so poor, we didn't have any money. And I was like, and I thought, no, I'm going to sell this. I'm going to sell this gum. I'm going to be the retailer. And I've got this. I got no money in it, so this will be my, my
seed
starting.
Money.
Yeah, my seed money. So I get on the bus, man, and start selling. And they're, talk about a hot market. Because the school didn't sell gum.
10.
They didn't sell gum, and I'm like, that's a miss. And so I sell all that out. Then I go to Mom, and I said, Mom, I need more candy. And I had this cash, and. So she took me to like what they call cash and carry, where you could buy a box, which Costco, Sam's Club, yeah. So I go up there and I buy me, some boxes of candy. So I just looked at what the concession stand had, and I just ordered the opposite because their selection was crappy anyway. And so, so I just start shoving all this. I got a big coat on. I'm wearing this stuff. So in my locker, I put shelving in. I had all my candies, my gum and stuff. I had a lock on it. So I would just go and I'm dealing. I was like a drug dealer, but it was candy. Because here's the flaws of the concession stand. The selection was crappy. They didn't open until 2:45. So it was the last 15 minutes of school is when you could buy. By 2:45, I've got everybody's money in the whole school. They're out,
my God.
And they're chewing gum, and so
how much do you remember? How much you made?
Hundreds and hundreds of dollars, man. I was like, Mom's like bumming money off of me, A little roll of cash in like a rubber band. So they started like popping up like competitors. The Yaunt boys up the road started their little can. I'm like, this is getting out of control, and so everybody, and then the principal called me in his office and shuts me down.
Why?
Well, he said he met with the concession stand and he said their sales were down. I mean, that's literally what he told me. And I'm sitting there as a fifth grader and I'm like, well, I can tell you why, you know, like they need a better. And he goes, I'm banning you. You can't sell anything. Wow. I always say it was my first run-in with the government. So
yeah, you ain't kidding.
He shut me down.
So what did you do? I mean, you obviously knew you were an entrepreneur.
Well, I knew that. Well, I had a worm farm. Probably the year before. So in fourth grade, I was a worm farmer. And so I had, that's probably where I knew, like, that's where I really built a business, like, from the ground up. Fourth grade. So I had this boat. So Dad had this old boat. It was kind of sunken a little bit in the creek. Because Dad was fishing pretty much. Like, Duck Commander was small, but mostly we got our money from fishing, commercial fishing, nets. Mm-hmm. And so he had this boat. And I said, Dad, can I use that boat? He said, it doesn't work for a boat anymore. And he said, yeah. So I drug that thing. I don't know, because we had no equipment. I still don't know how I got that thing on these sawhorses, because we had no tractor. We had nothing. But I put this boat up on two sawhorses, and Dad said worms love manure. So old man Lee, about a mile up the road, had all these cows. And so I took a wheelbarrow, walked 1 mile.
Oh, my God.
Shut, barrel by barrel, and filled this thing up with cow manure and dirt. And then I just went out and found all the worms that I could. So I knew all the spots where the worms were.
You went out and found all the worms?
Yeah, they're free. I mean,
I know it.
It's got to find the right, so it's the right moisture content with the leaf content. There were other ways, like you could take two sticks and like you could kind of agitate them up. But I knew where to find them. I was finding earthworms last week. Like, I still do it. It's fun. It's awesome.
Do you still sell them?
No, I don't sell them now, but I have a bucket at home, and I'm having to text people like, make sure you water my worms. And so I had all these worms in there, and I put, Dad said they like cornmeal, so I spread a little cornmeal, had them covered up. I'd water them every day. And then we lived on a boat dock. And so we lived right at where the creek comes off the river. And so Granny had the big business. She had the boat dock. So she had put the landing in, and she had a mailbox that said $1 for a deal, and they'd stick $1 in there. And I could take two sticks. I would fish some $1. But then I set up on her boat dock, and it said Willie's Worms, and then I'd count them all out, and I put them in old cans. So all the cans, we saved every can. That would spit most of them, but it was like all the corn cans and all that. So I had cans, and I'd have we'd count them out, and so I'd sell the fishermen the worms. We had to get up at daylight. So that was my first business, but that was, it was only Saturday. It was hard work. They were nickel a piece. And I knew I was destined for something bigger than this. And then the candy thing happened. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. So where did that...
Well,
was that... You think that started because of necessity or because that's who you are?
I think it was necessity, creativity, just a willing to work. I wasn't...
That's a big one now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No TV. No, we had a TV with 3 channels, and they were only watch whatever Dad watched. We could watch Dukes of Hazzard. But
you had to work.
We had to fold boxes while we did it, so we couldn't. But we did all the jobs of Duck Commander. Like, we dipped all the calls. There was no employees. It was when it first started. It was us. Family. Answered the phone, customer service. I'd pick up the phone. It took me a decade to stop saying Duck Commander when I answered my phone. I was like, Duck Commander, how can I help you? And then we were like 10. Like, we're writing down orders. And we would ship them. Mom would ship them out. We'd put the orders up, and so. But then we would sell fish. So I probably learned more about selling from selling. Well, I sold the gum, but that was a great. But when you can sell fish, like, they weren't cleaned. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we'd go to the fish market, and they would take them. If the fish market didn't take them, we'd go to the street corner. Fresh fish, like super fresh. Like, you got to clean them fresh.
Wow.
So buffalo, catfish. But the catfish was the king. So you got like 70 cents a pound for those. The buffalo was like 30 cents a pound. Then you have the trashy fish, the goo and the guard. We'd try to sell them all, man, but you had to. But I would watch Dad. Dad was such a good salesman. Like, Dad could sell anything. He was just I think now people see him because he's gotten older, and but back in the day, man, that dude could sell, man. He was like he had these. So we'd catch German carp. Well, they're yellow and they taste horrible. And I remember Dad was talking to these guys. He goes, you know what that fish is? That's a golden buffalo. He just changed the name of it. And that sounds way better. Like, German carp. Ain't nobody want to eat a German carp. Golden buffalo? I'll try it. So I had a knack for it. And then, but Glenn, I was always like, oh, I'm out of here, man. I'm getting out of here. I'm never going to work for this business. And then it was so crucial who I married. So I married Korie. Her family were big. They were big business people. They had bought like chains of chains of retail stores, and so it was just a perfect combination, man. Because they taught me more about.
She understood it too.
Mm-hmm. Really smart. So she's smart. Her degree is not
to not be able to teach PE.
She actually has an art education degree, which is hilarious that she got that degree. But Korie's really smart, and so you just had a great combination, man. She's more the detail. Like, she reads like the papers, and so I went to college. So here's what's even more stupid. And Korie's like, Willie, for some reason, you got this dumb degree, but you feel like you're so smart because I feel like I pulled one up. I was like, how about that? Like, how smart am I? Like, no, by the nature of your degree is saying you're not, but I feel like I pulled something off that must
You know what? I tell you, degrees I think are worthless.
According to what you're getting it in, I guess.
Yeah. If you're going to be a doctor.
Well, if you're like... Yeah. So Korie and I went to college at the same time, that was clutch. We did all this, so she would take all the notes, and like, it was very helpful. Because she would do all the details. But then as our jobs ended up, everything we've done in life, it's been the same way because we worked together. But I learned a lot from her family, a lot from just about general business and how to do stuff. And that's where it kind of. But true story, when I went to Dad at 30, I said, Dad, I think, because I went away and then I worked for her family, and then I came back to Dad and I said, Dad, I think I got what it takes, because I saw something. I was like, something's here. I could see how people reacted to Phil, and I knew. And he had done all the heavy lifting, but they were kind of tired and were like, I think we've sold all the duck calls we're going to ever sell. Yeah. And I came in and told him that, and he said, you did shut that concession stand down in 5th grade. I said, I did. And he goes, this is Phil and I's contract. Phil goes, you're the man. I said, okay, I'm in charge. And that's how
I got to tell you.
That's how I got in charge.
I remember at the height of it, I was driving across the country, and every truck stop, every 7-Eleven, everything had tons of Duck Dynasty merchandise. And I like the 5th place I stopped for gas, I just thought, who is running this? This is genius. And that's all you.
No, not me. There was a lot of.
You were the CEO.
Well, yeah, but I was, the TV show definitely helped,
Oh, no. I know that. But the merchandising of the show.
It was both. It was Duck Dynasty and it was both of us. So I didn't own Duck Dynasty. That was A&E's mark. And so our mark is Duck Commander, which was even more challenging selling against yourself in the market.
Wow.
Because they had the rights to my face, just like I did. They had the rights to Phil's, our likenesses, the things we said. And so, I played my part. But even with the company, I played a part. I mean, I wasn't, I think I've made more mistakes. Like, I've done more stupid stuff than I have smart stuff. But if you get one that works.
Only takes one.
But see, when I went into Dad, so when I took the company over, and so Dad's like, all right, you're the guy, you're taking over. And I said, all right. And so I had some things happen, right? I got somebody to pay us to use their products, like an endorsement. Mm-hmm. We didn't have that. And so that was key. And so I had like a camouflage company and then a shell company. And Dad's like, this cat's on fire. I'm like, hey, I just made this money to the bottom line, and you get free stuff. So it was like, they were like, this is cool. And so we started moving towards this, because Dad had done, nobody really knew who Phil was. Like, he was this mysterious bearded dude at the end of the river. And they knew he was kind of like a preacher, but he didn't go network at the hunting shows.
Right.
And so I was able to get in there, do more of that. And then television was interesting because Korie, my wife, says she watched reality TV, and she's like, Willie, y'all should have a reality TV show. And I'm like, I don't think. I said, Korie, we're just normal people. Like, and Korie said, Willie, y'all ain't normal. I said, you think? She was like, I'm telling you, I think y'all could do she was like, your family's just so unique.
Were you ever concerned that would destroy your family? Because those family
people warned, like, a lot of Christians told us, like, oh, you can't do this, you're going to destroy your family. But I was like, if not us, then who? Like, who's going to have the slot if we're not in it? I mean, I was looking at people who do TV, and I said, it seems like there's not a lot of bright lights on the TV, and I said, maybe we should. But no, I mean, I felt firm in our faith and who we were, and, I think you get a chance, and I felt like, maybe God led us to this and said, hey, here's your opportunity, and here's something to do. So
the movie, The Blind,
mm-hmm.
It's one thing, because I was a raging alcoholic, and did I need redemption. But it's one thing to talk about it. It's another to see it acted out on
mm-hmm.
the screen.
It is.
How was that? How did that impact you guys?
It was difficult on every level. We made the movie, and I say we, Korie and I and my cousin, Zach Dasher, my first cousin, who his mom is Aunt Jan. She's the one who got the preacher to go talk to Phil. Mm-hmm. So he was making it, just as crucial as in his mom's honor. And she passed away, and so sadly she didn't even get to see the movie. But we made the movie. It was our first movie to make. So we had these meetings, and we're like, we started a production company after Duck Dynasty because we said, man, there needs to be more shows,
mm-hmm.
positive, because we heard the people going, we want more TV and movies like this. And so didn't necessarily, we knew TV. I knew how to make that, but
film is completely
movies different. Yeah. And so we jumped in, and we had all these ideas, and one of the ideas was actually Phil and Kay's story, And I was like, well, dadgum, do we want to start out with more of our family? Because the idea was going to be like, we need to tell other people's stories, not just ours. And but it was just such an incredible story. And so we go to Phil, we say, he actually said the same thing to me with the TV show. I went to Dad. So when Korie said, hey, y'all should do a TV show. And then somebody wanted to do one. So I went to Dad, and I said, Dad, they want us to do a TV show. Phil's like, that'll never work. And I said, well, it could help business. It could help us get the gospel to more people. And he looks up, and then again, Phil gives me hey, if it'll get the gospel out.
I tell you, that is why.
And the movie was the same way.
That was what attracted me. I heard people talk about you guys. They said there's this show, and they pray at the end.
Mm-hmm.
They sit at the table and they pray in the end.
Yeah,
that's what attracted me.
Yeah,
and I don't know how you pulled that off with television, A&E, and all of that stuff.
It wasn't as bad as what you think.
Really?
Like, it was like the idea, we just, because we were sitting with the production company, and you're right, none of these people were obviously Christians. I mean, some may be, I don't know, but not overtly. But we just thought it'd be a good idea, and they were like, yeah. So it wasn't as combative as what you may think. I guess is what people would think it is. Now they would edit out "in Jesus' name," which and they stopped doing that. They finally quit doing that. They feel so bad. So they would do that, so that kind of bothered us. But yeah, I mean, once it started working, then a lot of people got out of the way and said, okay, that's what they. Yeah. But I think they always struggle with what made it work. Like what exactly made that work. So I guess, for instance, they would put shows behind it that were, I won't say anti-faith, but definitely, super worldly, and they wouldn't work. They would flop. They were like, your viewer would literally turn the channel because they knew, like, bang, go to another one. So, yeah, they struggle with knowing. I think, especially, I think the faith part and the prayer part. How much that played into it, and but it wasn't a religious show.
No.
Phil Phil wanted it more religious. Phil was like, Willie, we need more preaching on here. I said, Dad, there's another Robertson family that has a TV show that preaches. It's the 700 Club. Let them, if they want to know more, let them come. But let's just laugh. I think we have a gift and a talent of being able to do television like this because, I mean, to be honest, no one had ever done a show quite like that because Duck Dynasty was a sitcom. It wasn't a reality. It was a sitcom. Mm-hmm. But we weren't actors. We were real people. But it played. So it was filmed like a sitcom. Like I would walk in the duck call room. That's what Seinfeld does.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you would enter the room. So we filmed it just like a sitcom. And so, but it was hard to keep doing that because our lives started changing. Like when you're driving around seeing us in all the truck stops and everything. Like it was just weird that we didn't know because it was like we were in a bubble,
right?
But it was strange, like we'd be shooting a thing at the grocery store, and it would be like
a big deal.
I've run out of gas, and what do I do? But I'm like, I could see myself on People magazine. It was just kind of weird, to stay what was real, what was kind of.
I think that's
it guided reality because it was like, it's real. I mean, and so I think other people doing reality shows would probably have a hard time shooting it like that. And so, but it worked, it's the combination worked. And
so you
just had some
what was, if you could boil it down in a sentence, what was the secret of the show? Why did it work?
I think it was a combination of authenticity, faith, and funny.
That's a hard combination. That's a hard combination to
especially
hit.
Funny. Funny's hard, man. Funny's really hard, and the way they edited was really funny. The guys out there in LA that edited that stuff, it's just they did these pauses and these long, more kind of uncomfortable. And then Cy's super funny, and especially Cy edited's funny. I mean, because you could just but Uncle Cy, you could plug in anything you wanted into that man. And now this is a guy who spent 25 years in the military, in the Army, graduated from high school only, worked at a golf course, and then Dad ends up hiring him to build reeds for us. He's retired, life's over. Cy's, he's 63 years old, I think, when the show started. And then this guy, the first thing I wanted to do, you're talking about how smart I was at business. The first thing I wanted to do was fire Cy. So I come in, I'm the new CEO. I'm looking at our payroll expense. We have 4 employees. One of them lays on the couch every day, sleeps, farts, belches. And I'm like, Dad, we need to let your brother go. We just need to trim it up.
Right.
And he wouldn't let me fire him. And I was like,
my wife won't let me fire my son either. And he does the same thing.
Well, so here's the deal. So Dad said no. So then Duck Dynasty comes along. Cy is gold. I mean, just TV gold.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I almost fired him. And so here's the lesson for that. Sometimes you may have a diamond in your company. You've got him in the wrong spot. Yeah, you got him. So Cy, when he came there, But when we film that show, and these are long days, you know, because it was long. This stuff took a long, because it was more like a TV show, like a long TV show. But like most of the stuff I would say about me, like being fat and all that, most of it was I would tell you, I'd go like, say, and I would just come up with these zingers.
Right.
And then the hardest part was just not to laugh at him the whole time, because it was so funny, you know. Like we were filming this part, we were in Nashville filming this thing. We were at the studio, and Si was he was gonna sing this song, and so I got with him, and I said, Si, when you start singing the song, just start talking, like talk through one of your poker hands, and act like that's a song, you know. And so I was like, all right. So we go there. Si goes, we were playing poker, and they dealt a card, and I'm looking at a ace jack, and then so I'm sitting there now. So I'm straight facing this thing. I'm going, Si, you're just talking about you're talking about a hand. You're not even singing a song. He goes, no, hey Jack, I'm singing a song. And so the hardest part was to keep it straight and let him just do his thing. And he was brilliant, man, the way he could do that with a full-time Army guy who worked at, you know. And who would have known he was going to have this new lease on life, and just, he was awesome. It was unbelievable. But you just had such a combination of like Phil being this like I think that's what people saw themselves. Like they weren't like us, but it was like, see, that's like my dad, you know?
Yeah.
That's like my grandpa, you know? He is just the same way, like says stuff that's, you know, sometimes totally inappropriate.
I know.
I'm like, oh.
I hit 60 and I decided, I'm going to say whatever.
You're getting there, right?
Yeah.
You're getting there. That's the way Phil is. It's like, well, can you get your dad to not say that? I'm like, no, that's pretty much the package. Like, whatever you love about him, he's going to say something. Like, no matter what. Like, and here's the deal. I can't understand this about Phil. Phil lives at the end of a dead-end street. Road. It was dirt up until until Duck Dynasty happened. I think they finally paved a road. He's down there. He has no cell phone. He's never owned a cell phone.
Good for him.
He has no computer.
Wow.
He has a landline that I think they just got back because it got destroyed by something. So he didn't have a landline. And for some reason, Phil can get his message out all over the world. And I'm like, I'll hear about somebody like, how does Phil Robertson keep getting these messages out? He has no cell phone, computer, and lives on Daddy's Street. Crazy. And next thing I know, I'm reading something in the you know, online. I'm going, oh boy, what'd Phil say now? And so, you never know what's gonna. But it's, you know, I think he's earned it, and he says what he is, and he's authentic, you know.
He is.
Whether you agree
he reminds
with him or
me
not.
a little bit of Billy Graham in the way I became friends with Billy Graham the last 5 years of his life, and what a great guy. And he told me, you know, we were talking about him being on Carson and everything else, and he said it made him all uncomfortable. But the first thing I talked about was Jesus Christ. He said, because that may be the only question I get. So no matter what they ask, it's about Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to meet him as well right before he passed. It was amazing. You know, I was so honored. In fact, when I met him, and his daughter had set it up, and so they're right there in his little house, you know, in North Carolina, and she says, "Daddy, this guy's from Duck Dynasty. He came all the way from Louisiana to see you." And Billy Graham looks up, he goes, "Came to see me? Why would you see me? I'm a nobody." And I thought, wow. That's the right attitude.
Yeah.
That's the right attitude to have.
He was the real deal.
Yeah.
He was absolutely the real deal.
Fascinating what he did. And so, but he even said like it's going to change. I think the way to get the message of Jesus out would change. He even talked about the workplace. And so, yeah, I think we all play our parts on getting this out. But Duck Dynasty was a way, which is what I told Phil. I said it's a way to get the gospel out. And you don't have to read Bible scriptures. You can do it in a fun way, bring people to the table. But even just giving people just a form of entertainment, you know, because people just that you can laugh at, you can watch together. You don't have to worry about it. It's really funny. I spoke the other night recently at a place, and they had a house for me, and someone's house they'd let me stay at. And there's a Duck Dynasty channel where you can apparently just watch it all the time. And they had that on when I got there, and they thought it was so funny, you know. So I walk in there, I'm at this house, and so I can hear I walk in, I hear myself talking. I'm like, what in the world? And so I sit there, and I'm speaking like the next morning, and it's probably 11 o'clock at night. I got sucked into the Duck Dynasty vortex. I'm like 5 episodes. I'm like, I've got to go to bed. And I got up at the speech and I said, guys, let me tell you what. I sat up and watched that Duck Dynasty for 5 episodes. Everybody's laughing. And I said, you know what I learned about that show? It's a really good show. It's a funny show. Like, I hadn't watched it in so long. But it was funny. And just, man, I've talked to more people who were just like, my mom passed away.
I know.
We watched that together. I mean, I hear it almost every week. Just like,
I hear that too.
It's just
my dad was a big fan, and we would watch it together. And he's passed away, and it's
like he was in the hospital, and he wanted to watch that Duck Dynasty.
Yeah.
I get flagged whenever the name pops up, and it's so interesting. I get a lot of obituaries like that's in some paper, like in Richmond, Virginia, and they'll say, Betsy Connor, she loved her needlework, watching Duck Dynasty. Like it showed up in the obituary. So pretty cool stuff.
Have you tried to see a doctor lately? And I don't mean for serious issues. I mean at all. There was a time when my grandparents told me when the doctor came to the house, that's not done anymore. And it's just more and more difficult to get in. You have to drive there, then wait around until the doctor is free to see you, maybe 5-10 minutes, maybe more. And that's not pleasant when you're not feeling sick. May I suggest you consider the JACE case. This is a personalized emergency kit. Contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. Just this weekend, I started feeling poorly. I called the doctor. I told him my symptoms, and he said, the right prescription. I said, I got it with a JACE case. You can buy it as a gift for your family or loved ones, so they have a JACE case on their own. It's really a tremendous blessing to be able to have this medication at your fingertips. Go to jacemedical.com, jacemedical.com. Use the promo code Beck at checkout for a discount on your order. It's jasemedical.com. So, Godspeller, this book is, in a way, kind of anti-Phil, because Phil will go scriptures, full-on scriptures. And this is live it, share it, bring it into the culture. This is kind of like, it's like the anti, it's the, I hate to say this, but what's his name? Kendi, that, you have to be anti-racist. You can't just not be racist. You have to be anti-racist. And all of that woke crap. And this feels like the antidote.
Wow. It's
you didn't feel that way?
You still know that, well, maybe that's the secret. Maybe that's maybe that's the becoming all things to all men, to try to snatch some from the fire. It was just like, I still think the scriptures are there. Well, I tell you this, I actually printed out for Phil before it even came in book form because I wanted him to read it, and Phil read it, and I didn't know what he was going to say. Phil said, that's the best explanation of how to share the gospel I've ever read in my life. And I was like, wow. And this is so, knowing Phil, this is so funny to me. He goes, and you were so nice about it. which I knew. That's where he struggles. So, because he'll get into that, like,
yeah.
And I was like, we don't have to, you don't have to necessarily do that. And so, I think certain people, they have a hard time talking about it. And so I taught this class on it. It was right after COVID.
But it wasn't PE.
No, it wasn't PE. No, okay. It was about, I was actually teaching people how to share their faith. And because COVID had happened, and so I wasn't speaking. And these guys at church asked me about sharing your faith. And they said, can you teach a class? I said, yeah, I'll teach one. So I started gathering other stuff. Well, I was talking to people like, what holds you back, And it was almost the same answers. It was like, I don't know the Bible well enough. I don't know where to start. And they had the desire. They were just like, and no one's ever taught me how to do, like, how do you do this? I thought we were supposed to keep it to ourselves. We do this, a lot of stuff to disqualify ourselves from even talking about it, And what a beautiful...
And I don't want to feel like the weirdo that's
Yeah, you don't want to be weird. And that's why I was like, maybe, I mean, I may be the weirdo, and a lot of people are like, when they come to the Lord, no one ever tells them that that's part of the deal. Like, hey, you need to go share this. So if you think about it in the Bible, like when Jesus calls Peter, he just says, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men, and he follows him. So he obviously knew that was going to be part of the deal. And so what I wanted to try to do as I was writing was like, how can I break down these things and make the argument, one, should we do this? And so from the Great Commission, so like Jesus was living his life. Once he died, he came back from the dead. I was really interested, what happened then? What happens? What were they talking about then? Jesus was here for a little while, and he says in the Great Commission, go make disciples of all nations, baptize people, teach people. 3 things, which is a mission. That's a mission. Well, a lot of people I knew, they're nowhere near those 3 things. They're not doing any of those. So the question is, was that just for them, or is that for us today? Well, then I was like, well, then I think we think like the people in the Bible, like those fishermen, those people he was talking to, were like some kind of super duper. We think of them as like religious, like the highest you could get. When Acts chapter 4, those 2 of those same guys was talking and said their peers, here's how they saw them, as regular, unschooled, ordinary men. So they didn't, more of a non-certified to teach me. That's the way they saw them, right? It wasn't like they were like some, knew all this. So, and he's telling these guys, and he goes, this is the mission. And then we see them start living that out. So especially in the book of Acts, I wanted to see what these conversations were like, because we really don't have that. We have conversations with Jesus in the Gospels. We have the book of Acts. Then we have letters. So these are letters to churches with problems. And so we can gather that. But I wanted to see that, like, what's that like conversation look like? And Acts chapter 2 is one of the first ones. You get that. And then they just start going through. And I want to know, what did they say to people? What was the reaction? What were the questions they asked? And so, and then want to put that into a modern day and say, okay, what would this look like to have these conversations? And what do you ask people? Where do you start? Where do you start? Where would you start with someone? John chapter 4 is a great one. Jesus is talking to a woman at a well. She's from a different area. He probably shouldn't be talking to her. I know that because when his dude showed up, they were like, what are you doing talking to her, But just by talking to her, he showed that he cared about her. The big question he asked her is like, well, how do I start this thing? Jesus said, can I get a drink of water? That's where it started. Yeah. So that's where it can start. It ended with her whole village, knowing Jesus. They all came down because she went and said, y'all got to go meet this guy, man. He got her story, which is usually how I do it. I just ask people their story. Most people love telling you their story, So I'm like, hey, you got a relationship with Jesus or wherever where'd it start? Well, 7 years old. Wow, how's it been since then? And then we start going through the story. He goes through her story. Hey, go get your husband. I don't have a husband. But he pushed in. He pushed in and said, is that true? And I asked myself, why did he push in? Why would he want to know more? Because it's kind of embarrassing, because I think Jesus knew if you don't deal with this story, you're never going to understand. You're never going to get past it. And so for a lot of us, we have to get past this thing of where we're at. That'll hold us back from telling someone else, because we're like, oh, I'm so screwed up. I'm the last person to be talking to anybody else. And that's what, even in this book, I wanted to tell, hey, this is my story. This is where it's at. This is what can happen. I really want to connect you to the Bible. I don't want to just tell you my opinion. I just want to connect you to that. Like, you can read it. You can decide. If I never see you again, you've got the New Testament. You maybe know some start and pass and go. I'm not the judge. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're going to heaven. I have no idea. That's you.
Even if I do know you.
God. I will tell you, though, I will show you some scriptures, though, that say this is where they started. This is what they said. Peter said in Acts 2, he says, repent and be baptized. I can explain those 2 terms to you. I can explain what he meant, not from other sections of the Bible. Because a lot of people, I feel like they raise a hand somewhere and they're like, hey, I'm in, but they don't know. They walk out of the building, they're like, what just happened? I don't know. I know. And then we're, and they don't know their mission. They think the mission is, you know how many people I run into? They think the mission in life as a believer is to try to go to church as much as they can and try to be a good person. That's not the mission. That's not, that was never, I never read that. I never read They don't even talk about going to church. Well, I don't even know what going to church means anyway. Like we are the church.
So, church is
not
a building.
Where are we going? Because if I feel like I'm going, then I'm leaving, right? Then I'm then I may act one way there, and I may act a different way. So I don't even like the terminology.
I always think of church as, in my mind, it's like a hospital or a clinic that I have to go to once a week because I'm just beaten down by the world, and it recharges me. Yeah, and I go.
It's just well, it's like a fellowship, right? It's just like where you get, but it's not the end all. It's just one. It's usually like an hour. It's supposed
to charge you for the.
It can charge. It can be. Yeah, there's a lot of. But the church moves around. The church is happening everywhere, all over the globe.
Yeah.
The church is moving. The church is happening on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Fridays. This book is for people. This book is actually not necessarily for Sunday morning. This book is for Saturday morning in the deer stand and for Friday night at the football game, for Thursday morning at work. Right. And, when your friend comes in, they're bawling, crying. They're going, "Oh, what's the problem? Oh, I've got, my uncle's just got hit by a car, and now you may want to know some answers to have to share with them. The Bible says always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have. Always be prepared. So there's a certain amount of preparation that we make to be able to talk to people. Because if I don't know a lot about something, I'm not going to talk about it. If you start talking about mountain biking, I'm like, I don't know, I have no idea. I can't even talk about that. When I get into people's stories and their lives, I start becoming. I think we're ambassadors for Jesus, right? We're ambassadors, so we're representing Him. We're on this earth. So then we become maybe like the counselor, So it's, sometimes when I'm talking to people, I feel like a counselor. I'm trying to walk them through. Sometimes maybe like a great physician, like you're like a physician, where you're like, okay, let's talk about. I mean, at the end of the day, the physician just goes, I know a lot about this, but here's the diagnosis. Here's what we're going to try to do. You want to do it or not?
Yep.
Yep. I can give you the medical terms. Now, 1 year after that, you'll know more about that, whatever, you'll know more about it than anybody because that's what you got. You're going to read other people's stories. You're going to watch videos. You're going to, I feel like that's kind of like Christianity. At the beginning, you may not know a lot, but you're like, I know what I've been doing ain't working. And so we're going to try something different.
Yeah.
Which is where Phil was. And that's where I start the book, which is Phil's story.
Right.
And I was so blown away by Phil's, like, it really hit me, Glenn, even in making the movie and watching the movie that was even hard to watch, really hard to keep less than rated R, because his life was not, his life was like that. But I thought...
Oh, wait, can we stop on... It was hard to watch it. Because I asked you that before. Yeah. Were you reliving it? Was it... I mean, I can't imagine Phil watching it.
I think it was really hard for him.
I bet it was.
We watched it together, and then the movie's going. They're like, "Hey, we've got another one set up." And Phil said, "I've seen it. I'm good. One's enough."
Yeah,
because it's so against everything in life. Like, think about Christianity. Your past is behind you. We're looking for it. But I even think, not even Christianity, in generally in life, like, we can't dwell on the past. You got to move forward.
Gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Like, I think that's a great thing, unless they make a movie about it, where we just live in it.
Right.
We just live there now in the worst part of your life. We're going to make a whole movie that looks really realistic, and you just got to remember that. So, man, you're ripping off scars there that were just rough. So it was hard for him. But again, he said, if it helps people see, then I'm willing to, y'all can put it up on the... But that's got to be hard. He was so embarrassed. He was like, because the person he was so mean to was my mom, and us. And like, it was just like, so it was hard to, I cried every time I watched it. And, at different parts too. It was weird. By the end, I was crying at like when he came up with the duck call. I was like, because I thought, wow, that was such a, had that not happened. So just very hard. And then to my other point, I was saying was like, what if that hadn't happened? What if Phil doesn't come to the Lord?
Right.
My whole life is completely different.
Yeah.
We're not talking.
Right.
I'm not here.
Right.
There's no Duck Commander. There's no Duck Dynasty. There's no TV show. There's no,
Do you think you would have found the Lord without his redemption the way you have?
Well, I guess I would say this. It would be impossible for me to know, but I would say probably not, because I feel like a lot of people, I'd say most people don't.
Right.
So just by the numbers, because how many people coming out of broken homes, coming out of trauma and all this stuff, that was going to go to jail. I mean, for sure. He was wanted by the law. I mean, what the numbers are, people that come out of there who have great, successful Christian life. Slim, right? I mean, probably not. And so I would probably say no.
I always wrestle with, there's no waste with God. Mm-mm. You're in his carpenter shop. There's no sawdust on the floor. He uses all of it.
Yeah.
All the wrong cuts. He is like, oh, no, that works. And it's more beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't know if my relationship with him would be as deep as it is if I hadn't so desperately needed him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it wasn't like, hey, please, heal, or please. I was done.
Right.
I was done as a human being.
Right.
And when you're truly broken, I kind of feel bad for people who haven't been truly, truly broken, because I just have this different understanding of it's gone.
Right. But you can.
I'm not that anymore.
Right. But you can still have that. Like, that's so interesting you say that, because I always thought, like, with Phil's, like, my story's not as cool as Phil's, like Phil, like,
right.
He took it to the end, and then he's like, well, this almost is over.
But you have changed because you witnessed it.
That's what I was saying. You don't have to be as broken.
Right.
Because I think we're like, but because you may not come back.
Right.
You may not find it. In your brokenness, Phil could have ended up dead for sure.
Right.
Killed, in jail, like, if mom doesn't forgive him, Phil could have said, okay, I'm ready. And mom said, double middle fingers him, going, I'm out. Like, I'm sick of the way you. And so, man, it was so crucial. Like, the movie was, it was just as much mom's story, like how she forgave and stuck with this guy, saw some vision of something in the future. But I think you can, I don't know, I think about, probably the workers and the wages, I think when you were saying that, it was like, you don't have to, but there may be something in your life where you find, it may be something else that you pull from, where you're saying the brokenness, but it's either pull from appreciation or pull from something else, that just, because you can have a great relationship with not screwing up your whole life.
No, I know. And I know a lot of people who are like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, hey, my wife and I, we both had affairs on each other. Now we're just close. You don't have to do that. To, to find that place.
I know. I struggled with this with my kids because, I wanted them to know my story, but I'm like, but don't do that.
Yeah, right.
It's not, find God.
Yeah, don't do the things that, and so.
So when I think of, and again, this goes back to the book, I think Mars Hill is at least it was for me, so impactful. Mm-hmm. If you understand, he didn't come to Mars Hill and say, as it's written, you're too religious. He came and said, you're so religious. You're so He said, I know your poetry. I know. Mm-hmm. He got to know them and love them in their own way before he started talking. He found the way in, but it wasn't scheming. And sometimes I think people don't share the gospel, or maybe more likely, at least I've seen, they share the gospel and it's like, I want to help him get redeemed, and I want him to get baptized. Mm-hmm. And if he's not going to, I'm not really his friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Probably been guilty of it.
Right, and it's
in my past. I've probably been guilty of that, where it's like, because I'm so like, because I want to tell that story, and I want to tell that story, and I want to say like, oh, this person here, and like sometimes there's people I work with all the time that I'm just like, sometimes these conversations are 20 minutes, sometimes they're 2 days, sometimes they're 2 hours, sometimes they're 20 years. there's people I've been sharing with that long. I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still texting. I'm still talking. I'm still being kind and friendly to people. And I'm still coming at maybe a different way. Like the Apostle Paul said, he was praying, or he said, pray for me that the mystery of the gospel can come out of my mouth more clearly. What is that? Pray that the mystery, nobody knew the gospel better than Paul. So how is it not coming out? Because I think it's more like art and less like science.
Oh, yeah.
So science is like, Glenn, here's the deal. But I can tell Glenn that, and Glenn can say, I desperately need you. I can tell Johnny that, and he can say the complete opposite thing. So it's like, There's a story in my book about Bill, and Bill, I kept wanting to preach the gospel to this guy, and he would say the same thing every day. He'd say, "Hey, he who hath not sinned cast the first time." Every time I brought it up, and I'm like, "Dang, man!" So I'd say, "Hey, Bill, you're talking about going to get surgery. I was just going to talk to you about your relationship with he who had not sinned." Every time. And it wasn't until we were in New York City, we just had the big meeting.
That'll bring a lot of people to their knees, by the way, just being in New York.
With some business people. We're talking about business. We're talking about money. And he was so excited. We're in a car. I finally got this guy to himself. And I just said, and he was smoking. He was smoking like a bird. I said, "Bill, how old are you?" And he told me his age, like 58. And I said, "I think you're going to be dead in 14 years. You're going to be dead." He just looks at me. His eyes are big. He's like, "What?" I said, "I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but I think you're going to be dead." "Why would you say that?" And I said, "Oh." He goes, "I've never thought about that." And I said, "Well, you may should start thinking about it, the way you're living, the way, So we pull up to the hotel. We're in this nice hotel. And he said, "Will you come tell me more about that?" I said, "I will." So I go get my Bible. You know what he didn't say? He who had not sinned cast first stone. Now, I tried a bunch of times, but finally picked another way that made him think about it. So it could be physical death. That could be work for somebody. Some people wasn't. We both know Marcus Luttrell. I remember talking to Marcus about physical death. Whole different, never even heard, imagine his take on that. Like,
I know.
And so what works for some people doesn't work for others. I could say, Glenn, you could be part of a church, a group, and you could have friends, and you could say, "Yes, that's what I've been looking for."
Right.
And then I tell somebody else, and they go, "I will never step foot in there. When I was a child, I was, so that doesn't work." So it's like, not that way. And these are the way these conversations, the subtitles, turning darkness into light, one conversation at a time. So as we have these conversations, I just, I think I've got the Holy Spirit living in me, so that's going to guide me. It's probably what guided me to tell Bill, I think you'll be dead in 14 years,
Because that wasn't something you planned. The way you just said it a minute ago, like, I tried a different angle.
I'm just trying to get in to have a conversation. And then if they don't want to know, I think you have to be authentic. But you also have to be looking for change.
Yeah.
When Jesus invites himself to Zacchaeus' house, it's a bold move, right? Now, everybody hates Zacchaeus. They're like, we hate this guy. And everybody's like, he's hanging out with this cat, Jesus walks in. He's looking for change. Zacchaeus, I don't know what exactly he said to the man, but he's like, "Okay, new rules. I'm giving them back. I'm paying back money," which is repentance, right? He's like saying, "I'm going to repent." Jesus says, "This is why I came, to seek and save what was lost," for these kind of people.
I know.
Because I think that was such a message for everybody sitting there going, we hate this guy. So, Glenn, I think you have to start with caring about people.
Yes.
Because what I see in this country, more than ever, we just don't care about each other. How many videos am I going to have to see of somebody walking down the street, step over somebody who's dying or just got mugged? They don't care. They don't care. I just got back from downtown Seattle. Ooh, there's not a lot of people caring about other people there. It's just, and I'm standing there going, how would I, what a mess, And so we have to care about people, because is it really attractive to you to get into other people's problems too? Especially when you're like, that's hard. I think this book would be hard for people because I've read some books where I'm kind of uncomfortable because I'm like, shoot, I feel like I need to do that, be better at that. And so I read some that I'm like, oh man, this is a different level, because a lot of people kind of got it where they I try to go to church. I live a good life. I love Jesus and cuss a little too. Whatever the T-shirt says. I don't know. The way I see this country going in our world, it's just chaos and just darkness. And man, we got to have, all the people who were out sharing their faith in the New Testament got killed. So I'm real careful about when I say, if you do this, man, he's going to take care of that little thing for you. And your life's going to be a little bit better. Unless you're in North Korea, unless you're in China,
Yeah,
we got to watch what we tell
coming
people.
Here.
Yeah, I mean, this could be. So I think the timing's right, but I'm just trying to figure out, how the message is the same. The methods can be different.
Yeah.
So the method of how you tell it
has to be different now. I mean, at least
it can be different for different people. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But I mean, generally speaking, I think the churches have just gone silent. They're just rotted. This always happens when there's, a reformation, and it's just rotted from the inside, and it's the church outside that matters. And the church outside has to lead the way.
It can be, it can be both. I think there's some church, I think what happens is you get off the path and you get into these, all kind of different things and you start meeting, all your meetings are about not the things that you need to be meeting about. No, people aren't preaching the gospel anymore. Here's the biggest thing. Being a gospeler is about being outward.
Yeah.
And what I see is, I think a big struggle right now, people go to church, everybody's looking inward. Tell me something to help myself so I can, it's like a self-help thing.
So do you remember just a minute ago you said somebody will say something and you're like, oh, geez. Mm-hmm. I just told you about church being a hospital for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having one of those moments like, ooh. So.
Well, that's why. Well, I'm trying to
No, it's
I
good.
go to a hospital, but I don't go to one every week.
Yeah.
I don't even want to go to one every week,
I know. I just feel so beaten down by the world at times that I just want to go and just, nothing is sacred in the world. Nothing is above man in the world. It's until, maybe because where you live, but you don't see all the stars and everything here in Dallas. You certainly don't see it in New York City. And I go to my ranch and I see it's completely dark and you can see the stars everywhere. And it just it's like the campfires. We don't have campfires anymore where you can sit around, look up and go, why am I here? What is all of this?
But, okay, you need the chapter called Hope Yeller. I know that there's a bunch of bad. I feel like here's the problem with Christians to me. We're all just screaming about how bad everything is. Where's the good? We're supposed to be teaching people good news. Where's the hope? And so I feel like
this is the second time now I'm going.
So what it is you're looking at, because if you say you can't see the stars in Dallas, but there's somebody in probably in some part of California or New Jersey going, Dallas is like heaven.
Yeah. No,
you know
I
what
know.
I'm saying? Where it's like, Idaho is like. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. If those are the worldly parts, can you imagine somebody in Yemen, like some believer that's like, and so a lot of this will pay off in the beyond. This thing we're in lasts like that.
I know.
I mean, we're getting older. I mean, it's like, whoa. I'm trying to pump the brakes on this thing. Yeah. Life is so fast. While we're here on this earth, we're only here for just a little more time, and then we're going to be able to do all kind of things. That's what we live for. That's why it's a desperate measure to get the good news out while we're still here on this earth. Because if we're just running around on earth trying to get the net, I'm just trying to stay, once you go on mission, man, once you turn it around. Well, you mentioned Billy Graham. Think about that mission. Look at what, look at him. He was like, there's millions of people all over this planet that would not know the gospel had it not been for that dude.
I know.
Just saying, let's go. And so
one of the last things.
So we got to yell hope. We got to yell hope and positivity and good, not just the bad. I get it. Like this whole world's going to hell in a handbasket. Okay, what are we going to do about it?
Right.
What are we going to say about it? What did Jesus do about that? It's not.
Have you found though that when you say that to people, because I've been saying for the last maybe 2 years now, we've passed all the exits. We've passed all the all the rational exits politically and socially and everything else. We're almost at the gates of hell. And the only thing that will save us now is Christ. That's it. Mm-hmm. Us returning to God, recognizing what we've done, and truly changing our life and it has happened before to societies. Yeah.
It may have to get bad before it gets good. People's lives certainly look like that. It may have to get bad before it gets, before it can get better, it may have to get way worse.
I know. As an alcoholic, I worry about that. Yeah, what's your bottom?
Right. And so in this country, it may have to be very uncomfortable, which would lead people to something beyond, and it usually does. I mean, 9/11 next week, more people were in church, I think, than, in a long time, right? There was a coming together. When you get scared, when there's fear, and there's true fear, and that may be what has to happen to get, a lot of people. And if that's what...
He will have a humble people.
In the eternal sense, that's what has to happen. So, to understand eternity and, I think I put this story in the book. My daughter was in 5th grade. She actually just graduated from college a couple of weekends ago, and she was in 5th grade. And Corey's like, Willie, go help her with that assignment, which is very unusual. I wasn't normally that guy to go. So I go in there and I'm like, here, give me this thing. And I'm doing like 5th grade. And I'm like, I ain't got a clue. I mean, I don't have a clue how to answer this question. I laid down. I said, Bella, here's the deal. This test doesn't matter. She's crying. I said, this doesn't matter. In fact, 5th grade doesn't matter. Who cares about,
Unless you're selling gum.
Well, unless you got I definitely, unless it's a mode of like business. So I'm like, you got it? She's like, yes, sir, I got it. So I go back there and watch TV. My wife comes in and is like, what did you just tell our daughter? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, she said you just said her test didn't matter and her whole grade doesn't matter. I said, yeah, I'm sticking with that too. Now I think she knows. She just graduated college. I think she understands what I was saying, to think back to 5th grade. So I think once we live with the eternal mindset, we have that heavenly mindset, man, this is like
and it also,
it's here.
He doesn't waste anything. Mm-mm. I mean, so something screws up, something goes wrong.
Jambalaya, really hard. You throw everything in there. I'm using stuff I've told you stories about 4th grade, 5th grade, like who would have thought I would have even... But now they're like, oh, I can use this, I think he uses, that's the beauty of Christianity, is that you can use even the bad, even the stuff's like, oh, this is bad, right? And it's like, when we used to, like reality TV, it reminds me of that. When the thing happens that's going to shut down the thing, and I always had, but you never can see it. And I would say, whoa, this is the show. This is the show.
Right.
You're like, no, we can't film the show because this happened. I'm like, that is the show. That's the show.
You're right.
The first time I ever did reality TV, my phone froze up. I missed my alarm. I was supposed to be down there duck hunting with Phil and them. Slept in. And they're down there, Phil and them are getting all ready, and the director's looking around and goes, okay. He goes, oh, where's Willie? And Phil does not miss a beat. Phil's like, oh, I imagine he's still asleep. And like, it's normal life. And they're like, we can't film this show. And they're like, well, we're going hunting. If y'all want to not film, don't film. And the guy's like, Willie screwed this whole thing. I wake up like at 9 o'clock. I'm like, oh no, the college shows. I'm like, I got to get out there. I need a P-row, which is a small boat. I go to get a small boat. There's a boat. It's the size of this tape, but it's this big. And I'm like, how are they riding this thing? I come to find out later, it's a serving tray for crawfish. It's not meant to. So I get in this thing, like, it's literally the size of my hips. And I get in there and I'm like, okay. And as soon as I did like this, it was just, and I paddled that thing out there. And you see me shoot out of the woods and Phil's like, what's he riding? Jay says, I see nothing but his body. We don't even know what's he. So when I pulled up to the deal, that was the show. That was
a show.
None of that was scripted. But so sometimes it's like, that's the thing that you're looking for.
Would you close in prayer?
I will. Father, we're so grateful to be in your presence. Just pray for Glenn. I pray for just the audience he has, everything he's built, Father. Just in this world and all the people he has around him. And Father, I just pray that you always give him hope, always give him the insight, Father, to make things clear to people. And I know he gets beat down, Father, and I just pray that you be with that, give him hope, positivity, renewed energy. And Father, just give us all that. Give us all the vision to see things and see the future, see being with you, see eternity, and seeing something beyond this earth that we know is hard to see. Be with our faith. I pray that we all become better gospelers. We just have the gospel on our lips all the time. I pray for all those around the world who are sharing their faith, even at the possibility of peril. And Father, I pray for them, and I just pray for, give us strength, be with this country, Father. We know it's just so screwed up in so many ways, but Father, help us to be voices. Help us to be voices to try to make that change. If even if not for us, for our kids and our grandkids. And Father, I just pray that you be with us in this year. What a nutty year, Father. We just pray that you give us wisdom and understanding. I pray for all the leaders, and we know that you're in charge, and we put these people in and move them out. And thank you for this show. Thank you for this time, this conversation, Father. And I just pray that we always have an answer for the hope that we have, and that's you. And we give you all the praise through Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I love you, brother.
Awesome, buddy. Love
Thank
you, man.
You.